get ready to fight from within. You're about to go behind enemy lines.
Roger, 3-2. Goliath copies all. Go ahead. Target is surrounded by multiple firms entering what appears to be a residential area. Requesting permission to engage.
From the People's Republic of New York City, you're now going behind enemy lines with Gene Baradelli and Russ Gallo.
And you are now behind enemy lines. Hey there, how you doing, America? Gene Baradelli here with you on a beautiful summer evening here in the People's Republic of New York City. Letting you know we got a great show for you tonight. Coming up on the show, Dan Gaynor from Newsbusters and Media Research Center. We talk a little bit about what we'll be talking about all evening, and that is the, I don't want to say presumptive win of Hillary Clinton. I think that's dumb, okay? Because when we get into it, this win was picked all along, not by the voters, not by you out there, but by the media elite and the leadership, the 1%, if you will, of the Democratic Party. We'll get into that a whole bunch with Dan during the show, and we'll also start sizing up the main event of the evening, or the year, as it were. We're talking about the battle between the Republican nominee, Donald Trump, and the, I guess we'll say presumptive, whatever, the preordained nominee of the Democratic Party, Hillary Clinton. Let me tell you something, folks. I think we all knew this was coming for a couple months now, but someone should have let Bernie Sanders know this was coming, because, you know, as we take this show, there's still some primaries out there left to be won. But I guess the media and the Democratic Party, they can't be bothered with such trivial things as elections. They can't be bothered with the will of the people. Say what you want about the Republican process and the 15,284 candidates that ran within it. But the people's voice was heard loud and clear. It may not be the voice that the so-called establishment wing of the party wanted to hear. It may not be the nominee that mainstream Republicans and establishment Republicans, whatever you want to call them, what those people wanted to hear. But it was done by election. It was done through a primary system where votes actually mattered. Not so on the Democratic side. I'm saying it right now. And I will go on record by going to goonrecord.com during the show when the interview with Dan Gaynor is being broadcast. And I will say that this year, this election cycle for the Democrats, the Democratic Party preordained their pick and created a self-fulfilling prophecy. And no one decided to tell Bernie Sanders whatsoever. Hillary Clinton makes history, apparently. If you ask the AP, if you ask MSDNC, if you ask any of the other mainstream outlets, George Stephanopoulos is basically doing a tap dance on air. Hillary Clinton makes history as the first presidential nominee to be female from a major party. That little caveat has to be there because us history buffs will remember that there was an Equal Rights Party nominee named Victoria Woodhull. You want to talk about historic. This was a woman who went out there and basically bucked the entire system, stating that women are the equals of men. This was back in the 1870s. Women are the equals of men before the law, are equal in all their rights. Direct quote from her, if you believe Wikipedia, which I tend to do. In the same year, you had Frederick Douglass running for president. We're talking about 1872. That's historic. That is people in a time when there weren't equal rights. When you just had a full generation since, well, not even a full generation, of women being lower than men, with black people being lower than human. And there are people running for president and trying to make a statement out there. And I guess that's where Bernie Sanders is a winner. Yeah, you heard me say it. Bernie Sanders may be considered a winner because, while he knew it was probably a losing proposition, he created the conversation within his own party of what the values of that party are. Now, those of us on the outside looking in, nobody really cares on our side what they're thinking about. We all know that it's all socialism. We all know that it's all about the greater good of the group and individuals be damned. We all know that it takes a village from their side to raise a child, where on our side it takes a family. We know all that. But when you compare prior elections and real historical value, what is really the historical value of Hillary Clinton being handed the nomination? And make no mistake, she was handed the nomination. Let's run through some numbers together, folks. With 6 primaries left to go, as they are being tabulated during the live broadcast of this show here on Spreaker, Hillary Clinton has 1,812 pledged delegates, and Bernie Sanders has 1,520 pledged delegates. That is pretty tight when you consider how close Ted Cruz was when he decided to suspend his campaign. But here is where media and political 1% step in. The media, a day before the largest primary in the Union, the California primary, goes out and says, well, if you take the pledged delegate count plus the pledged superdelegates, those are the party elite, the party leaders, the elected officials that are all against basically Bernie Sanders. I would dare say 90% of them are pledged to Hillary Clinton, and the numbers bear that out. 572 superdelegates plus 1,812 pledged delegates gives Hillary Clinton the magic number she needs to break that 2383 threshold that the Democrats have set for their nominee, based on their primary system. So if you're Bernie Sanders right now, or if you're a Bernie Sanders supporter, what the hell was this process all about that started back basically in October of last year? This whole primary process, what did it actually mean to you? Well, here's what it meant. And let's be honest and straightforward about it. It meant nothing. The nominee was already chosen. The deck was stacked. The field wasn't level. Everything was against you, Bernie Sanders, from the jump. The party was never going to let you win, no matter what. And the media, by extension, wasn't going to let you win. How many calls this week have we seen from the Washington Post on down demanding that Bernie Sanders quit the race? Now listen, I'm no friend of Bernie Sanders, but I am a friend of fair process. And this whole superdelegate situation, obviously it skews the votes tremendously. It's been one of those stacked decks that you expect from a Clinton campaign. It's just, I don't even know what it is. It's not democracy, I know that for sure. Is it deck rigging? Is it unleveling the playing field? That's the only thing I can think of. It's rigged. It's a rigged system. I'll go as far as say that. It's rigged for the House to win. The House being the DNC. Now, superdelegates is bad enough as it is. But when you have media saying the election's over, we have a presumptive nominee, and you have 6 states going to vote the next day. And we're not talking about small states, we're talking about large, huge states. California, New Jersey. Did Bernie Sanders really make people very upset to the point where they got nervous about whether Hillary Clinton was going to win? Absolutely. And that's why the party is lining up. Make no mistake, this is a get-in-line vote for Hillary Clinton. Nobody likes Hillary Clinton. Nobody on our end likes Hillary Clinton. We know that much for sure. But let's face it, Hillary, despite all her scandals and everything, is the party pick, the establishment pick, the status quo pick. That is what the Democrats have been doing this whole time. Gonna grab some comments from our chat room right now. During our live shows, Tuesdays at 10 p.m. Eastern on Spreaker, we run a chat room where I sometimes borrow some comments from the chat room and from our people in there. And we got a little bit of a lively chat. I got some birthday wishes in there. My birthday is this week, and it's actually as we're broadcasting live, so thank you very much for remembering that. 38 years old, and still trucking, thank goodness. So I appreciate being called a young man. Knowing what is said, that they're already showing delegates for Hillary, I love the nickname there of Dano, before there were even any voting started in the primaries. Yeah, I mean, that's what's really sad. I got another comment saying that Joe Biden is kicking himself for not running. Oh, you gotta definitely think that. If you were a candidate with any type of name recognition, if you were, I would even say John Kerry, I would say Joe Biden, I would say just about any Democrat of note out there, you're kicking yourself square in the pants because you didn't think Hillary was beatable. You were just letting the coronation go by, letting the parade go by. But Bernie Sanders, and you know what, give him credit, you may not agree with him. Bernie Sanders is the example of the candidate with no chance that creates a movement more so than creates an electoral win. There is now a wing of the party, a Bernie Sanders wing of the party, that has to be loud at this convention. I mean, listen, if you go by straight election results, and we recounted how many states in a row Bernie won throughout the primary process and all that, and how we were making fun how the DNC rules were redistributing his wins. He would win a state, but he'd only get half the delegates because they were redistributed out from him. Isn't that the ultimate irony for socialism in America, folks? Bernie Sanders has created a movement, and I don't know exactly what the convention for the DNC is going to look like. Look, I think we know that there will be a hectic convention, maybe not as much as we initially thought, for the Republicans. Now, the Democrats are going to be walking in, and they may not be unified themselves. Bernie Sanders is the ultimate Democrat kingmaker right now. If he chooses to unify the party, we'll see if the couch will beat Hillary, with all these young people and their energy not going anywhere. I mean, West Virginia, a lot of people said, I think it was to the tune of 60% of Bernie supporters said that they'll go support Trump, which is amazing in and of itself, right? It goes to show you that the Bernie Sanders movement is not so much ideologically far left as it is as frustrated with government as the Tea Party and the grassroots right is. That is significant for any establishment candidate like Hillary to worry about. On the Democratic side, they'll just stay home. They won't show up. On the Republican side, they'll show up in droves to stop the establishment from winning again. Donald Trump has tapped into something on that Republican side, and we'll get into that a little later in the show. But, man, oh man, if you're Bernie Sanders, you gotta be pitching a fit. Pitching a fit at the media, pitching a fit at your own party leadership, because you had something transformative going on, and they pulled the rug out from under you in the name of establishment politics. It's crazy, folks. Listen, we got a lot of show to talk about. I do want to get into, before we play our interview with Dan Gaynor, a little bit of this media bias that we're going to be talking about. As we see in comments, oh, by the way, he's a communist, Bernie Sanders. Yes, he is. I'm not doubting that. Listen, I'm not a Bernie Sanders lover, but what I am saying is, when someone puts themselves out there and gets that kind of traction nationally, it can't be ignored. And it looks like the Democrats rigged the game against those people. And I would love to see those people stay home and watch Donald Trump become the next president of the United States. It would serve them all right in the Democratic Party for overlooking their grassroots, just like it would be the same thing for the Republicans to decry and bemoan the victory that really can be said to be a grassroots victory of a non-establishment candidate winning their nomination. Both parties have the same problem. They both don't respect the grassroots voter. At least the Republicans allowed the grassroots voter to vote and have their vote matter. Democrats didn't even do that here. But now getting back to the point I was going to make about Donald Trump. Donald Trump has a two-front war. And we see this, I'm going to tie this into the discussion we were just having about the media picking Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump's relationship with the media right now is, it's abysmal. Donald Trump, and I'll get into this with the interview with Dan Gaynor, Donald Trump is fighting not only the Democratic machine, but fighting the arm of the Democratic machine that looks to skew results, and that's the media. Donald Trump, in press conferences, has, called out media, particularly individual members of the media. He's, gotten bitterly angry with them over many different points. The latest one being the point about his donations to veterans organizations when he skipped the Fox News debate. It's one of those things, folks, where Donald Trump may be fighting a losing battle, but he might win the war. The more that he points out how the media is hypocritical and biased and skewed and have an agenda, the more people will see that, I think. I think people right now don't trust mainstream media. I mean, if you look at the way stories are reported now, just an example, this whole minor issue, really, with Hillary Clinton and her Armani tweed jacket being reported by the New York Post, but not reported anywhere else. That might be information that some voters would find useful. Others may not. But when the media chooses not to cover something, or they choose to cover something, they are trying to point the electorate in a certain direction. That's what I'm against. Put all the information out there and let me be adult enough to decide for myself exactly what's going on. You know what? We got some time before we play the interview here. Let me get the plugs out of the way real quick while I got everybody listening. Thanks for listening to Behind Enemy Lines Radio. I'm Gene Baradelli. Russ Gallo is working tonight on the night shift. And while I got you listening, please check us out at www.behindenemylines.radio.us. Check us out on the Facebooks and the Twitters at BEL_radio. And if you miss any part of this live broadcast here on Spreaker, you could check us out at any one of our rebroadcast outlets, including WJHC 107.5 FM on the Florida-Georgia line, K98 Talk, High Plains Talk Radio and Sackheads Media, and the Internet's conservative radio network, ICRN. And if you miss us on any one of our rebroadcast outlets, you could check us out on demand anytime you like at iTunes, Spreaker, TuneIn, Stitcher, Podbay, Player FM, iHeartRadio. Thanks for iHeartRadio for carrying us. And you can also discover us on Google Play Music, Google Play Podcasts, a brand new way to listen to Behind Enemy Lines Radio. And if you miss us at any one of those, check back next week. Come here live. Hang out with us. We got the chat room going, like I said. We'd love to have you, hear your thoughts, and know what you think about what's going on. Because from this point on, folks, we're talking about the main event. We're talking about Hillary versus Trump all the way through to the election. Going to take a quick break right now, but when we come back, we'll have Dan Gaynor from Newsbusters and Media Research Center coming on the show to talk about media bias and also how the media treats the whole Trump protester thing. Are they pro-Hillary? Are they anti-Trump? Why does it matter to you as you consume all the news coming in the many 24-hour cycles to come between now and Election Day? Gene Baradelli, Behind Enemy Lines. I'll be back with Dan Gaynor right after these brief words. If you're a long-time listener of the show, or maybe this is your first time listening, you can probably tell that me and the gang here, we like to have our share of fun, whether it's on or off the air. We talk about 2-drink minimum radio and no medication Wednesdays or whatever day it may be. That's why when we found the people at Less Government, More Fun, we knew it was a match made in heaven with this show. Folks, we live in a time where government is out of hand. Our founding fathers did not intend government to be all-consuming in all parts of our lives. That's why we are telling you to go to lessgovmorefun.com, check out the website, check out the swag. What the people want is less government, more fun. Pass it on, make it happen.
Who might you save?
Your mother, your father, your husband, uncle, aunt, son.
Learn FAST, F-A-S-T, the sudden signs of a stroke, and you could save.
Your friend, teacher, boss.
F, face drooping. A, arm weakness. S, speech difficulty. T, time to call 911. F-A-S-T. That's F, face drooping. A, arm weakness. S, speech difficulty. T, time to call 911. The sooner they get to the hospital, the sooner they'll get treatment. And that can make a remarkable difference in the recovery of
your neighbor, the waiter, grandmother, grandfather.
So learn FAST, the sudden signs of a stroke, then pass it on, because you never know who might save you.
Your wife, your colleague.
Spot a stroke fast. Visit strokeassociation.org, brought to you by the American Stroke Association and the Ad Council.
Behind Enemy Lines Radio is all about being right. No, seriously, it is. If you ever listen to Russ Gallo or me go back and forth on some issue, we always want to make sure that we remember who said what and when we said it. That's why we go to goonrecord.com. It's a brand new social media website. Challenge people on what they believe, whether it's in politics, sports, entertainment, finance, whatever. There's a category for you at goonrecord.com. Check it out right now. Tell us, what do you stand for? It's time for you to go on record.
Behind Enemy Lines. Back on the air.
Gene Baradelli back behind Enemy Lines and joining me on the line right now, as we do just about at the top of every month. It's a pleasure to welcome back to the show from Newsbusters and Media Research Center, Dan Gaynor. Dan, it's history this week, pal. It's absolutely historic. We have... Oh, wait. It's not the first woman. It's just Hillary. Never mind.
Well, I won't say that. But, yeah, the instead of being historic, it's more like the media are being hysterical. In part because
absolutely.
They are declaring her a winner before the game's over. And since there's a huge vote tomorrow, what they're in effect doing is skewing the results. They are boosting the candidacy of the candidate that they want, making her look better. Because if you're a voter who is voting against Hillary Clinton in the primaries, why would you vote tomorrow if you hear she won today? You know,
they're picking winners and losers. Absolutely right.
You know, that depresses the result. But if you or if you go vote, why not just hop on the she's already won, I guess I'll just vote for the team. So that's problem one, and then problem two is what they don't tell you. Hillary Clinton gave a speech just a couple of days ago, this marvelous speech about income inequality. And she wore an Armani jacket that's worth $12,495. Now, you could take, and I was thinking about this earlier, every item of apparel I own, every item, and you wouldn't come near what that Armani jacket is worth, and it's fair to say that I'm better off than most people. I'm at a stage in my life where I've worked a lot of years. I got a couple of master's degrees, etc. She's got the hypocrisy of this is amazing. Yet ABC, CBS, and NBC, not a mention of it. Kudos to CNBC and New York Post for doing the story. But here is a candidate for the President of the United States wearing a $12,495 item. And if she were, conservative, they'd mention it. Remember the horse? I hear Mitt Romney's horse. Because it was the horse for Ann Romney. Ann Romney has some physical problems, a disability. And so she had a horse to help her with her disability. But because the media wanted to depict the Romneys as rich white folks, well, of course they highlighted this horse. They talked about it a lot because that fit their agenda. But, you don't hear any discussion of Hillary Clinton's daughter's $3 million wedding. You don't hear any discussion. Where is the clip? She's given the income inequality speech. Where is the clip about her saying when they left the White House they were flat broke? And then, all the talk about the Clinton Foundation. This is how the American media fix an election. They don't go into the ballot box. They don't doctor the machines like, I'm from Maryland. So like people in Maryland would do. Because, we have a long history of some suspicious elections. But they don't do that. They don't have to. They don't have to put their thumb on the scale. They can just talk endlessly saying how one person is great and one person is awful. They will talk endlessly about Donald Trump and the judge and talk almost nothing about the riots and the protests, the violent protests from the anti-Trumpers. They will talk about the Gadsden flag back when they had Tea Party people, and they'll talk nothing about how the left is marching around carrying a Mexican flag, and I will never forget the one protester carrying the sign saying "Make America Mexico Again." If a Tea Party person carried something like "Make America England Again," they talk about that.
Oh, absolutely right. And by the way, if you're from the state of Maryland and you want to reach out to Dan Gaynor, do so at newsbusters.org and mrc.org. Send him your hateful letters if you're from Maryland, not to me. I think you guys in Maryland are great.
I love my state.
I'm joking. Of course.
But I wish we had consistently less corruption. Yeah.
Well, you know what?
My state, two of my famous governors, Agnew and Mandel, both got prosecuted.
You know what? Catch up to the People's Republic of New York, and then we'll talk, because I think we had 2 or 3 in a row there that had to leave office. But I digress slightly. I want to get back to, you mentioned the protesters they're not pro-Democrat protesters, really they're anti-Trump rioting protesters.
Scum. Well, they're rioting scum. They
are rioting scum, but they're getting paid for it by somebody. And nobody has reported on that either. How there was an email being circulated for $15 an hour. Go protest Donald Trump, and yet those are characterized as anti-Trump protesters, not pro-Hillary or pro-Bernie.
Yeah, and they
compare the treatment with Trump and Hillary.
When you watch these protests, which are turn into riots, what do they chant? They chant Bernie Sanders' name. They chant Bernie. I mean, that every one of the ones I've seen, that happens. When bad things happen at Trump rallies, Trump is calling carpet and said, you must atone for your sins. You must, apologize. When bad things happen because of the lefty protesters, they do the same thing. Don't blame Trump. Not let's blame the left. The left has been rioting for years. And I'm just in recent memory, let's go back to Occupy Wall Street, Ferguson, Hands Up, Don't Shoot, Black Lives Matter, Freddie Gray. The left has burned down, a good chunk of Baltimore, most of Ferguson, vandalized, raped, and attacked police across the country, and you see complaints about, someone got punched at a Trump protest. Oh my gosh, end of the world.
It's been so prevalent in the past month since we talked, going back to the Katie Couric quote unquote documentary and the deceptive editing there, now moving all the instances that you mentioned, the unfair treatment of Donald Trump as compared to the kit gloves that Hillary is getting, and even now when we talk about trying to get records from the State Department. I saw an article on Newsbusters that giving actual credit to CNN for trying to do that. Are there, how many Jake Tappers are there versus the rest of the herd that will actually try to do their job?
Because remember, it's not just Jake Tapper, and my kudos to him. He's just a good guy, but. That requires the support network. So you can have a guy who I think generally has been a good reporter, but sometimes his stuff doesn't land on air, and that's Chip Reed or Jonathan Karl. those are people who might report stuff, and if you watch, they'll ask the questions in the press room, and then you'll wonder, well, why does that stuff not land on air? Well, that's their network, that's their producers, that's other people making those choices. That's why you look, a lot of journalists end up leaving working for those networks because they can't bear the look at Cheryl Atkinson. She ends up going someplace else. She's, pleasantly at Sinclair now doing good work. But they don't want to rock the boat. They got ties to every lefty organization you can imagine. They date liberals. They're married to liberals. And so it takes a lot to separate that out. Okay, well, can I be unbiased? No, you can't be unbiased. You can try to be neutral, though. You can realize if you are, let's say you're pro-abortion, well, then you realize you're going to try harder on stories where you're dealing with that issue, so you've got to make sure you should have some regular pro-life people you talk to. Like, okay, I recognize I got some biases here. Let's run this out. I know this can be done, and you know how I can know it be done? Because I used to work for Congressional Quarterly. When we did it, both parties in D.C. respected Congressional Quarterly, respected what we did, and understood that we were trying to be neutral.
I just can't believe, and the main thing that I've seen with Hillary, especially, why has nobody called her out for not being as accessible as Donald Trump has been? Donald Trump holds press conferences daily, basically.
I think the Washington Post did an editorial about that today, but here's what journalists do when they want to make something an issue. They'll run a story, and in that story, Hillary Clinton hasn't done a press conference in 7 months, hides from the press. Then they run that story. Now, that when they don't really care, they bury that inside, or they do it on a weekend or whatever. But when they do care, then they follow up the next day. Clinton camp refuses to respond to allegations that they're hiding from the press, and then then they'll do a third day story and talk to congressional supposed supporters of Hillary Clinton, and they'll say, well, how come she hides from the press? And the people, well, I don't want, and you'll look at this, the judge issue. It's a great example. And they will gradually try to peel away supporters away from a politician that they don't like because by asking them tough questions. And they never do that to her. They don't go around asking about, the emails except to party leaders who always give the same standard song and dance. If they asked about Hillary Clinton's emails and they started going around and say, well, so basically what you're defending is the fact that she lied and, put our military at risk. And, well, no, I'm not defending that. So then you're criticizing her. And they put them on the spot this way. And so what they do is systematically peel away any support. And that's how journalists really pursue a story they want to be big. They want to take down Trump now. They helped get him elected or help get him nominated. Now they want to take him down because they desperately don't want to see anybody on the right ever get elected. If the media, forget Democrats, this is not an issue of Democrats, this is an issue of fair play by the media. If the media had their way, the Republican Party would cease to exist. The nation would be a one-party state. It would be a social democratic state, something like Bernie Sanders would create, and that's what they want. They don't want opposition. If you look at their defaults over the last couple of days, BuzzFeed, one of the new web endeavors that is so moronic that it almost defies words. It's like a listicle website for people who don't know it. But nevertheless, BuzzFeed turned down $1.3 million in Republican advertising because they won't advertise. They won't run Republican advertising. Now, the logical reaction to that level of bias. Remember, this is BuzzFeed. I think BuzzFeed is one of the outlets that Trump is not allowing into his events now. I don't know. I know he's not allowing Politico in. But the natural reaction to that from the Republican Party, if they were trying to fight the media, is say, we won't talk to any BuzzFeed people. They won't be. They will no longer hold press credentials. And in fact, in another administration, we will no longer ever allow any event that we're at to have BuzzFeed people. So even if we do a bipartisan event, BuzzFeed people will not be allowed, or we won't attend. And that's it. And you tell your staff, anybody caught talking to BuzzFeed reporters is fired. And you do it. And you stick to it. And that way, and then you make it clear to donors that you do that, and et cetera. I mean, if a media outlet wants to declare war on a political party, well, that goes both ways. But it doesn't in this world. Liberals can do anything they want, and conservatives or Republicans, and believe me, the two are not the same, don't want to fight back. This is the essence of Trump right there. The reason why some people support him, even if they disagree with him in some things, is that he fights back. And so he'll fight the media. Last week, his Tuesday presser, where he kicked the media in the teeth, one of the guys he talked to was this guy, Lamas. And then 2 days later, Lamas is in San Jose, and who's tweeting and posting about how awful what the anti-Trump rioters are doing. That was him. Would he have been as quite so fair and quite so honest if he hadn't been called out by Donald Trump? I doubt it.
So can Trump, though, win can he win the presidency by fighting the media, though? I mean, we're talking about how they seem to think that they're decision makers.
That's not a policy plan. That's a reaction. That puts people in the seats. I think most of Americans at this point are sick of the media. They're sick of the media influence in our lives. But that's not policy. I think people still want to see, on either side. They want to see how are you going to make things better. There was you see these polls come out or surveys come out, and you're never sure quite how accurate they are. But the survey that said, 2/3 of Americans can't handle a minor financial emergency. Well, then something's wrong in the country if you can't handle a few $100 financial emergency. The media don't want to talk about that. They don't want to talk about how the left have systematically gone to war with coal. I mean, systematically gone to war with coal. It's not the only force that has beaten down coal. Fracking helped and global markets helped, but the left has been anti-coal. The left is anti-industry, and then turns around, we're sorry, there are no manufacturing jobs. They all shipped abroad. Well, why do you think that is, you morons? And so you've got this swath of the country that the media don't care about. And, let's face it, it's mostly poor white, and it stretches from New York all the way down through Appalachia, and down into the South. And the media has just written it off. It's areas that they don't go to. Did you see that? You saw the election results in West Virginia, which is one of the prime areas for this.
Yes, absolutely.
Like one third of Bernie Sanders people said they'd vote for Trump.
Which is astounding. Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, that's where this is, and it's reflective in the unrest in both political parties. When both political parties have a throw the bums attitude, and one does and one comes close, then something's not right.
I totally agree with you, and that's why I'm glad that we always bring you on every month to kind of give us this perspective. Time to do some plugs for Media Research Center and Newsbusters. As you know, guys, I go to newsbusters.org every day as part of my daily blog roll. And for those of you who don't go, you got to check out, you got to support them. The Media Research Center Gala is coming up in September, on September 22nd, at the National Building Museum in Washington, D.C. September 22nd at 6 p.m. for the reception. I'm plugging it, Dan, because you finally got the theme right. You went Italiano. I love it. It's fantastic.
Well, it is every year. It is a send-up of the media. Every year we make fun of them after a year of them making fun of everybody else. We catch their gaffes, catch their mistakes, their biases, and we pick out the worst. And by the worst, we mean the best. I mean, a couple of years ago, somebody talking about something happened they were talking about a meteor. And it was one of the CNN people talking about a meteor, and she said, "Is this caused by global warming?" And everyone in the audience, everybody, including, and there were press people there, everybody laughed. And, it's ridiculous that the Don Lemon, the famous Don Lemon interview that even liberals love to make fun of him for, where he's talking about the stupid, the plane crash when CNN was obsessing about that, and he's asking, it's like, I think he asked about a black hole causing it, and the guy said, "Well, how do we know that?" It was because we haven't been wiped out. Just the ignorance of 24/7 people sometimes is amazing, and it's so biased, and so when you catch them in their element, either on TV or in Twitter or at other places.
Absolutely. And listen, the conversation continues next month, but between now and then, go to newsbusters.org, sign up, subscribe, follow them on social media, Facebook and Twitter. And Dan, we'll catch up with you then later on, probably right at the 4th of July, and we'll see how the media decides to destroy that holiday, and we'll take it up from there, pal. Thanks for coming on.
Sounds good, man. Thanks.
The show will be right back. But first, a word from Al Sharpton.
But resist we must. They're all jitty about a shutdown. The tortoise in the race, then co-author of Hubris. U2 lead singer Bono, Fran Drescher, Sigourney Weaver, suspect Jahar Tsarnaev, Rush Limbaugh. Rush Limbaugh, the show Rush Lombard hosts Supreme Court Justice Sonia Sotomayor. Is Mike Muckery yesterday, Antonin Scalia, Kim Kardashian, and the Republican candidates, both Cairo and Benghazi. We rank behind Lavita. First stop, Kazakhstan to college students in Beijing. He's getting lunch at Chipotle in Iowa. Bain is appropriate. The GOP's tax day giveaway to millionaires. Why was traffic problems email sent? The Environmental Projection Agency and what sequestration has done.
But wait, there's more.
We all know I've had my share of prompter issues. And here's the president meeting with a cola cube. Republicans, Grinches, launching fistful of coal. Copies of the new issue of Charlie Hebdo. He also goes by the name Michael Zahabiba. 26-year-old Nina. Phone. Ray Romano. Honor David Letterman. He died of accidental asphyxia. Al-Qaeda in Yemen. The start of school has been postponed several times. Massive manhood is underway. Who spoke at a white supremacist convention. You look at the hand you dealt with, there are not 60 Republicans after a historic when you hear of ISIS now waterboating all over the map on immigration. Did the New England Patriots cheat to get into the big game? NFL analyst and Hall of Fame player Troy Aikens, the writer slamming President Obama for talking with YouTube celebrities. What's the latest tonight in Iowa?
Well, in Ottawa.
And they gave this guy a TV show? Let's get back to our show.
Gene Baradelli, back behind enemy lines. Time to start sizing up the tail of the tape here between the two nominees for the presidency of the United States. I know that we've been vetting them since, I don't even know when. It felt like it started 3 years ago, doesn't it? But in thinking about Hillary Clinton, let's think about what a disappointment this race has been. And yet she is still in a position to really, more than likely, I would say, capture the nomination, only if you look at the numbers. And, Donald Trump has been changing the numbers. We'll talk about that in a second. But think about this. Emailgate, Filegate, dark money with the Clinton Foundation, generations of scandals, Benghazi. And here Hillary Clinton stands this week as the presumptive nominee for the Democratic Party. Wow. Could you imagine if you had the same type of scandals on the Republican side? I don't think the Republican electorate would stand for it. I don't think the Republican electorate would stand for a nominee who is currently under investigation by the FBI. I don't think the Republicans would stand for a candidate who panders and plays race politics. I don't think that the Republicans would really respect anyone who shows up to speak about income inequality wearing a $12,000 Armani jacket. I don't think that Republicans would respect someone who talks about getting money out of politics while she attends a dinner at George Clooney's house where tables cost $353,000 a table. I just don't see it. And there's so much AstroTurf out there that the media covers. It's ridiculous. There was a rally called the American Spring that was put on by MoveOn.org and a bunch of other organizations looking to stop big money, quote-unquote, in politics. And it was funded by organizations with connections to George Soros. I don't get why the left keeps getting fooled over and over again. It's unreal that people are lining up to pull a lever, check a box, fill in an oval, punch out a Chad for a woman who's under investigation for crimes based on her job as the chief diplomat of this country, the Secretary of State. An organization, by the way, who is destroying evidence with regards to Iran deal negotiations, with regards to this whole email situation. A woman who claims that she released all her emails and then PolitiFact checks it and says, well, it's only half true because she only released half her emails. No, that's called lying. You're lying when you say that you released all your emails when you actually only released half. Come on. And this is the nominee. And not only is she the nominee, she's in a position where she can win. Perfect quote from the chat room. The bottom line, people are stupid. There's a lot of stupidity going on the Republican side as well. People think that Donald Trump is just like them because he talks like them. Because he's uncensored and unfiltered. I'm sorry, I don't know a lot of billionaires. I've met one or two, possibly three, just through my political circles. I'm not like rich or nothing, guys. Don't worry about that. But I'm sorry, Donald Trump does not live his life like every other person in this nation. I'm sure that he is just as disconnected as Hillary Clinton is, walking around in his $1,000 suits, going from place to place. Yes, he does call people out. And you know what? I'll be voting for him. Because I think that we'll have a better future than we would under Hillary Clinton. I think that we'll have a better judiciary with Supreme Court nominees under Donald Trump than we would under Hillary. There's a comment in the chat room saying that Trump has been untruthful this whole time. Well, welcome to politics. All politicians are untruthful. I think once you get that out of the way, you then start paring down to what really matters. Untruthful is one thing, criminal is another. To me, Donald Trump may be untruthful. Hillary Clinton is criminal. I mean, we're talking about a legacy of scandal upon scandal. I outlined just a couple of them. The bottom line here is, folks, as we start sizing up these candidates and you start listening to them, there's going to be a lot of things to cancel each other out. But the point of this show is to point out to you that you need to be the one making the decision and not letting the media or the political elite make it for you. Because that's how you got Hillary Clinton as your nominee. And it wasn't from lack of trying. Bernie Sanders gave it the old college try. But recognize that the media said she won the nomination a day before a pivotal primary that could have led to possibly a contested convention. Recognize that the Democrat primary system is skewed in such a way that political elite holds sway over deciding the nominee, regardless of how anybody voted. And recognize the difference of how Donald Trump got here by creating a voter base, by enlarging the big tent. Whether you like them in the tent or not, they're there now and they're ready to vote for Donald Trump and follow him to the moon and back again. Recognize the difference between how each nominee got here. That speaks volumes about what this race may turn into. The race also becomes not only Trump versus Hillary. There's a third person in there. And I'm not talking about Gary Johnson. I'm not talking about any other candidate. There's a third candidate out there that really could change this election, and that's the couch. Mitt Romney lost because of the couch. Mitt Romney did not generate enough energy on his side to win the nomination. Recognize that Hillary Clinton is fighting the couch just as much as she's fighting Donald Trump. That's why when you see these rallies and you see violence at Trump rallies by anti-Trump protesters, recognize that anti-Trump protesters are pro-Democrat supporters. Recognize that anti-Trump is pro-Hillary now. When the media starts shading things for their own benefit, understand that there's an agenda there in the words that they use. Donald Trump has people that don't like him, but those are people that like Hillary. Those are people that like Bernie Sanders. Those are people who will pull a lever or fill in the oval or punch out the Chad or check the box or whatever it is that they do in these states nowadays. Those are the people that are going to be voting and being active in their voting and recruiting people for Hillary Clinton. Now, you may not like Donald Trump as being abrasive or says things without thinking or whatever the case may be. He doesn't have the temperament or the acumen to be president, but he did have the temperament and acumen to build a multi-billion-dollar industry for himself. He was smart enough to amass a lot of wealth and a lot of success and help a lot of people along the way, whether it be job creation or shareholders or stakeholders or what have you. Then ask what Hillary Clinton has created. You know what? Forget that. She hasn't had a lot of time in the private sector to really create anything. Ask what Hillary Clinton has done in government. What policies has she championed? What bills did she sign on to as a senator? What did she accomplish as Secretary of State? Give me something that this woman has done for the past 40 years of her life that qualifies her to be President of the United States. I just don't see it. I do see Donald Trump doing a lot of things and creating a lot of things in the private sector as a chief executive, and he can bring those skills to the White House. I can see him putting conservative judges on the bench. I don't see that from Hillary. It's these fine points that are going to determine who you vote for and where you stand. If you let the media tell you who's this and who's that and let them insert their opinion and try to skew your view, you'll be sitting on the sidelines like the Bernie Sanders people saying, I was had, I was robbed, I got hoodwinked because I couldn't think for myself. As we wind up the show here tonight, I just want to take a few comments from the chat room. Obviously some of my New York friends are saying, I live in New York, so it doesn't matter who we vote for anyway. I agree with that. You know, New York is probably going Democrat, although Donald Trump says that it's going to go for him. I've doubted him on many things before. I refuse to doubt him anymore. And if he wants to make a play for New York, I don't know if that's the best use of resources, but who am I to say, don't do it, Donald? I said that he would be out by Christmas, if you remember. I said that he would be out by Valentine's Day. I said he'd be out by Super Tuesday #1. Boy, was I wrong, huh? So, you can't go by me in my opinion, right? Even though I get to say it on air all the time on great affiliates like WJHC on the Florida-Georgia line and different internet outlets throughout the area. As we close out the show, folks, this is the last week that you can vote for Behind Enemy Lines for a podcast award for news and politics. I'd love for everybody to go to www.podcastawards.com, find Behind Enemy Lines. We're the first one listed on news and politics. Cast your vote for us. Also, we're going to ask for your help in casting a vote for our friend Andy Chavarria and the Intersection for Religion and Spirituality in that category for Podcast Awards. You can do it every day from now until June 12th, folks. Get out there, get out the vote for Behind Enemy Lines, and we thank you for your support in getting us this far as listed as one of the top 10 People's Choice for news and politics podcasts throughout the interwebs. It's a really big honor, and we really appreciate it, folks. You know what? We've done a lot of talking tonight about Hillary and Trump. I'm going to end the show with this final thought for you. Don't take my word for anything that I've said tonight. Do not accept what I tell you. Hopefully you were entertained. Hopefully you were enjoying the information that Dan Gaynor from Newsbusters and I have been giving you tonight. Hopefully you've listened to my opinion and thought about it yourself. Go out there, find the information firsthand. Do your own research. Do your own independent thinking. Hit that independent thought button, folks. That's the only way you will know for sure that the choice you're making is the choice that you want and not that somebody else wants. Go out there, find things for yourself, be engaged, keep on thinking, keep on believing, and keep listening to Behind Enemy Lines Radio, because until next week, folks, it's time to shut things down. Good night, God bless, and we are out of here.
Our position has been compromised. It's time to roll out. Report for debriefing at www.behindenemylinesradio.us and look for regular communications via Facebook and Twitter at BEL_radio. You are the resistance. Behind Enemy Lines. A rock radio production. Copyright 2016. Back in 7 days. Out.